Would you keep dating a guy who left you stranded drunk at midnight after your date? Throw away and I'll keep things simple. I, 21F, have been going out with a guy, 23M, for 2 months or so. We've been on maybe 4 or 5 dates. He lives in the town over from me. I live in a college town that relies mostly on bikes and buses for transportation. Most students don't have cars, including me. We made plans on Tuesday to go to this bar with mini golf in his town. He said we could meet at 7, but that he couldn't pick me up as he got off work at 6. His town is about a 30-minute drive from mine, and that was fine, and I made arrangements to take the bus. Note that I've never been to this part of his town before. Anyways, I take 2 buses and get there around 7:15, and we have fun. I drink a bit, and he doesn't drink. I feel like this is important to mention since I assumed he wasn't drinking since he would be driving me back home. Around 11 we decide to wrap things up, and he says good night and that we'll plan something later. I, confused, asked if he was driving me home. He said no, that he was too tired after a 6-hour shift. Now I'm panicking a little, since he won't drive me and the buses don't go that late between our towns. I tell him that the buses aren't running anymore and he sort of just shrugs it off. I asked him why didn't drink then, and he said he just wasn't feeling it and had to work tomorrow. The only option I had left was an Uber, so I told him I'll take an Uber. The issue with the Uber is that the price was quite high and I don't have that much money anyways. He says okay and leaves after saying good night, which I felt was another red flag. We were in a public plaza kind of area, and I felt quite unsafe sitting there all alone at close to midnight. I wish he would have stayed until Uber arrived at least. Luckily the rest of the night passed without incident, except me being like $50 poorer from the Uber. I've been thinking about it and I just felt very uncared for. Refusing to drop me off, and not really caring about how I got home, and then just letting me wait all alone for the Uber for 10 minutes in what felt like a shady area. So, would I be the asshole for not seeing a guy anymore for this reason? Edited to add, to answer some questions I'm seeing pop up. 1. I did not know the buses would not be running this late. The buses around my town run until 12 a.m., and I assumed wrongly that the buses between towns would also be running on that schedule. They don't, and end at 10 p.m. 2. If I had known the buses between towns would end at 10 p.m., I would have ended the date earlier and gone home. 3. I assumed he was going to drive me home because A, he only mentioned not being able to pick me up, and B, he's driven me back before on previous dates. 3a, I am not taking advantage of him as I have also paid for dates. If I had a car I would have no problem driving to him. 4. I was disappointed he didn't drive me back, but the real kicker to me was that he didn't even wait for my Uber to show up. That was kind of the final nail in the coffin. Commenter 1, girl, if a man can watch you struggle to get home late at night and not even pretend to care, he's not someone you need in your life. Ditch him, you deserve way better. Commenter 2, downvoted, Uber exists. OP, yes, that's why I took one. My issues with the Uber part of the night was that firstly, I wish I would have known I'd have to take an Uber, so I would have ended the night earlier or spent less on drinks/golf. I don't really have the money to spare for a $50 Uber trip. I'd only budgeted for drinks and mini golf that night. Secondly, I wish he would have stayed at least until Uber came. Op responds to a downvoted comment on saving money for Uber beforehand. It's not that I couldn't afford the night. I budgeted for drinks and mini golf. If I knew I'd have to take a $50 Uber back, I just would have either spent less on drinks/golf or left earlier. Commenter 3, did you tell him you would need a ride? Did you say you needed to leave by X time because that is when buses stop? I would not assume someone, even a date, even an established partner was available to give me a ride. While it isn't cool to be careless, it is also possible he felt like you were taking advantage of him. OP, I don't think I'm taking advantage of him. I've paid for dates before. I don't really have an issue with him not driving me home, especially since he has done so in my town before, but that's just it. I wish he would have said something about it earlier so I could have budgeted for an Uber or left earlier to make the buses. Has the date driven Op home before? But not when she went to his town? He has, in my town. This is my first time going to his town on a date. I've been there for study/work purposes before, but on the opposite side of town. Op explains the transportation she had on the previous dates, so let me get the full thing written out here. This was our 5th date. The previous 4 times, he came to my town. Date 1, we ended up staying out late and he drove me home since the buses weren't running. Date 2, he left early, around 6, so I took the bus home. Date 3, I walked home. My town is not super big, and I need the steps anyway. It was a 30-minute walk home. Date 4, I took the bus home since it was once again not super late. Commenter 4, wow. A whole 6-hour shift. Seriously, that's part-time. Commenter 5, he didn't drink. He didn't pay for her drinks or golf. Didn't want to pay for gas to drive her home or help her with an Uber. He's either the biggest cheapskate in the world or he's poor. He shouldn't be dating. Commenter 6, you know the op doesn't even say if this was his idea. Maybe he's not that interested. OP, this was his idea. He said we should go to this bar and golf, and that he'd pay for everything. He paid for a few drinks, but I insisted on paying for the rest along with my part of the mini golf. Did the date hope that op would stay over at his place after their date? OP, I don't think he was hoping for that, or at least I didn't pick up on it. He never mentioned it at all, and besides, he lives with his aunt and uncle, so I feel like that would have been awkward. Update, the next day. I didn't expect so many comments on my last post, but they were appreciated. Comments from incels were disregarded and laughed at, including some guy who commented probably 15 plus times, but otherwise I got a lot of good advice. To address a few points. 1. I originally thought he would be driving me home since he's done so once before when it was late, but it was in my town. This assumption was reinforced when he only mentioned not being able to pick me up, but nothing about dropping me off. If he had said he couldn't drive me back, I would have just budgeted differently or left earlier to make the bus. Buses around my town run until 12 a.m., but the bus between town stops running at 10 p.m., which I hadn't known. I did not go in knowing the buses had stopped. If I knew he wasn't planning on driving me back, I would have double-checked about the bus schedules and paid more attention. 2. I take the blame for not confirming with him about driving me back. I am not really that upset that he couldn't drive me back, though I was in the moment. I did, however, expect some kind of concern over how I was going to get back and, at the very least, for him to stay until my Uber arrived. Also, for those who blamed me for getting stranded, I wasn't stranded. There was no question about the Uber, but I just would have preferred not to as it put a dent in my finances. 3. On the issue of me being a gold digger or taking advantage of him, I've paid for dates before. If I had a car, I would drive to him. He was the one who suggested the location and time for this date, so I had no problem catching 2 buses over. And in response to a few annoying comments about gender, if the roles were reversed, I would have driven him back. If I was too tired or didn't want to drive at night or something, there is no question that I would have waited for his Uber and paid half of it. Emo, that's just basic decency. Not really sure where the comments whining about equality were coming from, as I would have paid half and waited whether I was with a man or a woman. I think I've addressed the main points, so on to the update. So the date happened on Tuesday night. I took an Uber back and got home around midnight. He texted me around 20 minutes after I got home asking if I got home safe. I didn't respond as I was exhausted and honestly just wanted to shower and sleep. Throughout Wednesday he sent me a few memes in the morning and afternoon, and then stopped texting. Wednesday evening I posted my first post, and after that, later at night he asked if I was mad at him and that he'd just been tired. I finally responded and told him I wasn't really mad that he didn't drive me home, especially since it's true I didn't confirm, but I was just disappointed since I wished he would have stayed for the Uber to show up at least. Like, did I wish he drove me home? Sure. But not really that big of a deal that he didn't. The part where he left me at midnight in an unfamiliar place was kind of the kicker for me. He's a lot bigger than I am, and I would just feel a lot safer with him there. Once again he said he was just tired and wanted to go home and said I ended up okay and that it was fine. Honestly, if he'd made a real apology, I probably would have given him another chance. When I didn't respond to what he said, he kind of moved on and said he already had a place to take me to next time, some restaurant a few miles from his house. He said let's make a reservation at 8 p.m. on Saturday and then go out for drinks and then a movie. I kind of wanted to be petty and ask if I should start saving up for an Uber back already, but eventually I just told him that his actions from Tuesday had made me feel very uncared for and that I wasn't really interested in going out with him for a 6th date. He immediately started asking if I was serious and that if he'd known it was such a big deal he would have stayed for Uber. This annoyed me since how did he not know it was a big deal? Why did it not occur to him in the first place that leaving me alone at midnight in an unfamiliar public plaza with bars everywhere might be an issue for me? And that he really liked me and didn't want this to ruin things, etc., etc. He even promised to drive me home next time, but I kind of just wanted to wash my hands of this whole thing. I don't want him to feel forced into driving me, and I don't want him doing things only because he thinks he has to, and I don't want to be dating someone who doesn't even think twice about leaving me stranded buzzed somewhere unfamiliar at midnight, and then only texting me like an hour later. He's still texting me, but I haven't opened those messages yet. Commenter 1. I would just reply, if you couldn't see that leaving a woman alone, in a strange place, in the middle of the night would make you an undesirable partner, perhaps you shouldn't be dating. And to answer your question, really, I'm no longer interested, please stop reaching out to me. Commenter 2. If I knew you'd stop seeing me over it, I would have stayed for your Uber. Okay, but you should have stayed because you cared and wanted me home safe. Not because you lose pussy privileges when you don't. Commenter 3. You dodged a bullet. If he's this inconsiderate this early on, it's not going to get any better. Cut your losses.